Welcome back to the Comfy Show, where we tell like it is and we don't care how you feel. Can you believe we are already sitting at week 11? Season's gone. We're right here at the end. Most teams have a couple more games left to play, and that's it. They're done until next season. But week 11 coming up, we got some good games, some very important games for conference champions and who's going to get in, who's going to be left out, kind of narrowing down the playoff picture a little bit more each and every week, and hoping that this week delivers. But there's some good ones. So let's run through some of these top games. Now, usually my past preview predictions, I kind of do like almost all the top 25. I kind of really narrowed it down in this video to keep it to like the top teams that are still kind of in the fight for the playoffs. Depending on how well these videos do, I might do other previews of the other games. But I really wanted to stick to the most important ones coming up this weekend. But starting off, we got number 18, Utah on the road, taking number 5, Washington, undefeated Washington. Washington is a 9.5-point favorite. Cam Rising is out for Utah. I feel like every time I turn around, that guy's getting hurt. And they got Barnes in. He's kind of been rough at times. He's sitting at a 58.9 completion percentage, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, way too many interceptions to touchdown ratio. I think if Utah wants a chance in this game to beat Washington, they've got to get Jackson and Glover in that run game going. But if Michael Penix Jr. shows up and does what he does, there's no way Utah can trade punches on offense with this Washington team. I understand Utah's been pretty solid on defense here and there, but I mean, if Michael Penix shows up and plays the way that we've come to know Michael Penix to play, if he has one of his good games, I don't think, especially with this being at home for Washington, Washington's still undefeated. They know that they have everything in front of them. I think it's going to be hard for Utah to keep up, and I think that 9.5 points favorite for Washington, I think that's a good number. I think I would take Washington at home, 9.5 points to cover, especially with Rising still out. I mean, the way that Barnes has played this season when needed, he's still got a lot to learn. And his numbers aren't good. I just ran through him. If you give this, he's got 5 interceptions. If you give this Washington offense extra drives on offense, you're asking for trouble. So I would take Washington, and I would take the points, especially with this being a home game. But we've also seen Washington kind of struggle these last couple of weeks, so we'll see. Going to be a good game. Next up, number 3 undefeated Michigan on the road at number 10 Penn State, who's 8-1. Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite on the road. Now I'm going to break this down into 2 different things: football talk and then the scandal talk, because everyone's been talking about it. This is the first test for Michigan all year long. They haven't played anyone at all. I have their toughest games here that they've played. The toughest games that Michigan has played so far is a 6-3 Rutgers, or a 5-4 Minnesota. They haven't had any real tests, plain and simple. I don't like it. It's been a joke of a schedule. And now this is Michigan's first actual test against a quality opponent that can keep up with them. Penn State and Michigan kind of play the same type of ball, and this is on the road. So that can make things a little bit interesting. In Penn State, we know that Penn State's only loss is coming against Ohio State. They kind of bounced back their last 2 games since that against an Indiana and a Maryland team. Now, I know those 2 teams aren't that great, but they look good. They bounced back. They got some good wins. If Penn State can find a way to beat Michigan, I think I'm going to take Michigan to win. But if Penn State can find a way to somehow beat Michigan this weekend, that will make things very interesting in the last week of the regular season when you have Ohio State versus Michigan. Because then if Michigan turns around and beats Ohio State, then you have a 3-way tie. What do we do then? I have no idea. But J.J. McCarthy has looked really good. Obviously, relative speaking to the teams that he's played, but that's what you ask of him. Right? It doesn't matter who you play as long as you go out there and you look good, and they have looked good on offense. J.J. McCarthy is 156 for 206. That's a 75.7 completion percentage. He's over 75% on passes completion. That's really good. He's got 2,134 yards on the season, 18 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's a really good touchdown to interception ratio. He delivers the ball well, and he protects the ball. Drew Aller for Penn State, he's got 20 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's a really good ratio. He's really protecting the ball. So I think this is a matchup nightmare for Penn State. The reason why, like I kind of mentioned a while ago, is that this is the same type of brand of ball on both sides of the team. Penn State and Michigan kind of like to play the same style of ball, but Michigan just does it better. They have the better roster, the better tactics and sign stealing, just kind of overall. Kind of like my prediction when I made the Georgia and Kentucky game. Kentucky loves to play the same type of brand football that Georgia does. Georgia just does it better. They have the better roster, the better coaching staff, everything from top to bottom. I don't think there's as much of a gap between Michigan and Penn State as there is against Georgia and Kentucky, but it's kind of falling along the same lines. I think that this is good for Penn State that it's at home. I would not give Penn State any chance if it was at Michigan, but with it being at home for Penn State, that does kind of lend them a little bit in their favor. I don't know if it's going to be enough just because of being a home game to actually beat Michigan. I think J.J. McCarthy is too good. I think this offense is really good, and I think that this Michigan's defense have been poised. But that is all relative speaking to who they have played. We do not know the real Michigan. Now, I think from what I've seen the eye test that they are a good team, but we have to wait and see until they play someone good. And this weekend, they play someone good. So give me Michigan with the 4.5. Now, the sign stealing, at first I kind of chalked it up to who cares? I mean, it's sign. Everyone still signs. But the more that came out, the more stories that we heard over and over and over, every week there's something new coming out. This kind of really seems like a bigger deal than what initially thought, just because the links that Michigan went to steal signs. But now there's things coming out that Michigan just released a letter basically telling the conference, hey, be careful about accusing us because we know we're not the only ones that do it. And it's basically paraphrasing, but that's basically what they said. And they're probably right. I'm sure every team does something along those lines. Now, I don't know if every team goes to the links that Michigan went to, but we'll see. We'll see what I might make a video after everything's kind of said, wrapped up about that, just because everyone's doing a video on it. But it's pretty intricate. I mean, the guy got fired. The Big Ten is kind of wanting somebody to do something, but we'll see. Will that have an impact on this game? Who knows? The media is going to cover it. It's going to be all over it. But with that all aside, I think Michigan is just a better team, even though this is their first test. With it being on the road, I still think Michigan gets the job done, and I think they pull out the win. And we'll see if any more drama unfolds over these next few days. Number 8, Alabama on the road at Kentucky. Alabama is 8-1. Kentucky is 6-3. Bama is 11-point favorite. This is a noon game at Kroger Field. I believe that's Kentucky's field. I could be wrong, but Kentucky is a sneakily good team. They're 6-3. They're 3 losses coming against Georgia, Tennessee, and Mizzou. Obviously, Georgia being basically the number 1 in the SEC, Mizzou being the 2nd in the East, in my opinion, and Tennessee, in my opinion, being the 3rd in the East. That's their 3 losses. I said all season long, and in my videos you can go back and watch, I told Bama to be careful with this game. Kentucky is not a give-me game anymore. They are a very physical team. They play hard, and they would love nothing more than to upset Alabama at home. It is a noon game. I guarantee you those fans at Kentucky are going to get up for it. Can Bama do the same? Jalen I don't think that's a problem for Bama, especially with Nick Saban at the helm. I think he's going to get his team ready. Jalen Milroe has been looking better his last 5 games. He's averaging around the last 5 games. He's averaging around 65.2 completion percentage. He had a really nasty game against Arkansas, which was kind of off. I think his completion percentage in the Arkansas game was like 45%. It was crazy low. So I don't want to take Kentucky to win. Now, I did make a prediction earlier in the year that Kentucky would beat Bama. That was when Kentucky was looking really good, and Bama was kind of looking very vulnerable and not good. But Bama has kind of seemed to hit a stride. They got their offense a little bit figured out. They're not asking Milroe to do too much, to be Superman. They're kind of they're using his strengths as actual strengths on the offense. Now, they are still having simple mistakes, things like that. They gave up a lot of points to LSU, which every team gives up a lot of points to LSU in that offense. But I think Bama needs to be very careful with this game. A lot of people are overlooking this game for Bama and just saying, give me Bama, give me Bama, give me Bama. I will take Alabama to win, but I will say this. If Bama does not come prepared and ready to play this game, do not be surprised in the fourth quarter if this is still a game and Kentucky is in this game. And do not be surprised if Kentucky finds a way to win if Bama does not play their A game. I'm telling you, this is a sneaky good Kentucky team because they always fight hard. Now, I know they got blown out by Georgia, but hey, it's Georgia. Come on, go Dogs. But the point is that they are a sneaky, hard-hitting, physical team, and they're going to bring it everything they got. And if they can get that offense rolling, be careful. Be careful. But I don't think so. So I think Bama wins, but they gotta pay close attention to this game. They gotta get ready for it. Be up for it. Miserable Miami on the road at number 4, FSU undefeated. FSU 9-0. Wow, that sounds weird, doesn't it? Whew. But FSU is a 14-point favorite at home. This is a huge game for FSU. I mean, obviously they know that they still have everything in front of them. They control their own destiny with the ACC championship. Still in the race for the college football playoff. I think that no matter what, they will still make the ACC championship, if I'm not mistaken, even if they lose out. But this is a big game for FSU. To get this win over one of their bigger rivals, to clinch the ACC, number 1 seed in the ACC, still remaining undefeated. And the next 2 games after this game for FSU is Northern Alabama and the Gators. And obviously, give them that game against Northern Alabama and give them that game against Florida. I've already said that I thought that if Florida doesn't win against Arkansas, they will not win another game this season, and I don't see Florida. That's a preview coming up. A hint at one of my future previews. I don't see Florida beating this FSU team at the end of the year. I don't care even if it is in Gainesville. I'm not sure where it's at, but regardless, I don't see them getting that dub. So realistically, FSU should win this game. I would take FSU with the points. I think Miami has just looked way too inconsistent. That coaching staff is an actual joke. The teams that they have lost to, they've had no business losing to. I mean, how do you lose to NC State, North Carolina, and Georgia Tech? Georgia Tech, of all teams, especially the way that they lost. Like, you shouldn't even be down that bad in a fight against Georgia Tech. You shouldn't. So I think that FSU is going to win, and I think they're going to roll in this game. I think FSU is going to come prepared, and they're not taking any hostages. They're out for blood. Miami is the king of we're back. They are the we're back champions. Every year we hear there's a lot of teams that say they're back every single year when they're not back. But I think Miami takes the cake every single year because they are hyped up beyond them in Texas. But Texas has actually found a way to do something. Miami hasn't. This isn't the 80s anymore, Miami. You're not a relevant program. You're not. You are just not a relevant program. And no matter how hard you try with Cristobal and everything that you got going on, it's not working. And it's not going to work. You don't even have a home stadium. Talk to us. Leave the rest of the college football world until you figure out how to put a stadium on your own campus. Goodbye, Miami. Your season has been over for a long time. FSU gets the home at home. They continue to roll. They go 10-0, and then they'll go 12-0 in the college football playoff. Moving right along, because Miami pissed me off. This is a huge game that I think not enough people are talking about, because this has a lot of implications. So the SEC East is still not divided. It is basically still a race between Georgia, Tennessee. I believe it's just Georgia and Tennessee. I think Mizzou is mathematically eliminated with that loss to Georgia. But if Tennessee wins this game, so Tennessee's on the road at Mizzou, they are a 2-point favorite, 1.5, 2-point favorite, depending on where you look. Both of them are 7-2. If Tennessee wins this game and Georgia loses their game at night against Ole Miss, that means that the next week, that Georgia-Tennessee game in Knoxville is an SEC East playoff. That means the winner of that game would go to the SEC championship. So there is a lot that Tennessee has on the line in this game. This is a huge game. Huge game for both teams, but Tennessee has more riding on it. And Mizzou is coming off a tough road loss against Georgia. They gave Georgia all that Georgia could handle. They kept it going right into the fourth. They made a couple of mistakes. Georgia capitalized. They pulled away. Even on the last drive, Mizzou still had a chance to they were down by 6, and then Mizzou threw that pick to the big man, give the big man credit on that defensive line, and ran it almost all the way back, and then a bullshit block in the back, penalty, whatever, is what it is. Georgia found a way to win. Point is, can Mizzou bounce back after that loss? That was a very hard, physical game for both sides, and they traded punches with Georgia. Up until the fourth quarter, they traded punches. Does Mizzou have anything left in the tank? And what is that locker room atmosphere like? Because their season's not over. They're still 7-2. They could still finish their season at 10-2 and go play in a New Year's Six Bowl or something. But still a lot riding on for this Mizzou team. I don't know who I would take in this game because both teams can put up points. Tennessee is thought to be more of a passing team, but they're actually way more of a running team. They heavily rely on the running team. That's a key to Tennessee. If I was Tennessee, I would go out there and I would run the ball and make Michigan prove to me that they can stop me on the ground. If they can't, then just keep running at them. And if Tennessee does that and they're able to get their run game going, I think Tennessee wins this game. If Mizzou can slow that run game down and get pressure after the quarterback for Tennessee, I think that's the key to success for Mizzou. They've got to commit less penalties. They are still one of the most penalized teams in America. So, and with Burden taking an ankle injury in the Georgia game, Georgia completely shut down Burden. He had that one long touchdown pass earlier in the game, but other than that, he had 2 other receptions, and that was it. He caught 3 balls for 1 touchdown, and I'm not sure exactly how many yards, but Burden was shut down. So this is going to be a fun game. If Tennessee loses this game, then that means before Georgia even kicks off, they would have secured the SEC East. I'm rooting for Mizzou for obvious reasons, but I actually think Tennessee finds a way to win this game on the road. I think there's so much on the line for Tennessee that I think they come out fighting, and I think Missouri is still a little bit hungover from that loss that they took against Georgia. But we'll see. Moving right along because this video is getting long. West Virginia 6-3 on the road at Oklahoma 7-2. Oklahoma's a 13-point favorite. Boy, oh boy, how Oklahoma has fallen. Y'all remember back in the beginning of the season when Oklahoma was like dynamite? They're going all the way. They beat Texas. Well, that ain't happening anymore. I said it right then and there after that game. Texas was still the better team. If you put Oklahoma and Texas on a neutral field, even in Oklahoma, Texas is getting that win big time. Oklahoma's got a tough road ahead coming to the SEC. They've got a rude awakening coming because those teams you're playing out there right now in the Pac-12 ain't going to fucking cut it. That's not like the SEC. Just wait till they get. You're looking at a 4-8 season most years, Oklahoma. But give me Oklahoma in this game. I think they find a way to win. West Virginia is a decent team. They've been a lot better team. They're doing great things out there from their past recent years. But give me Oklahoma. They are the better team. If Oklahoma loses this, I'm not even going to mention the word Oklahoma until next season, and no one else should. Michigan State on the road at number 1, Ohio, who should be number 12. I'm just kidding. Ohio State is a 31.5-point favorite. Whew, that's a lot of points. That is a lot of points. But Michigan State is a bad team. It would not surprise me if Ohio State... Well, actually, no, it would surprise me because I don't think this Ohio State's offense is really that dynamite. I don't think they're that good. They constantly look like they're playing in mud, and they're not putting up a lot of numbers. They're not... Their numbers on offense aren't that good. But... And their best wins, besides the Penn State win, have been come against a 5-4 Clemson and a 6-3 Notre Dame team. Like all I can say is I can't wait until Michigan and Ohio State meet at the end of the year. I mean, that's all I gotta say. Also, Ohio State plays Minnesota, Minnesota's 5-4. That's their game next week, which is the game right before the Michigan game. Is that a potential trap game? Could Ohio State be caught looking ahead? And I think they're on the road at Minnesota. Maybe I could be wrong, but still. Is that a trap game? Who knows? But give me Ohio State. I'm not taking the points. That is a ridiculous amount. I understand Michigan State is a horrible team, especially with the scandal going on with their head coach and Mel Tucker and everything. I really liked Mel Tucker. I hate that he got caught up in that. But 31.5 points is an insane amount. But I do take Ohio State to win. Battle of the Texans. Texas at TCU. Texas also, is 8-1. TCU 4-5. TCU, another team. Boy, oh boy, how you have fallen from last year. You had everything in your hands and then ripped away. Here you are with the losing season. Very next year. Texas is a 12-point favorite, which it still feels is kind of low. I guess it's on the road, but I just feel like that's a low. I would take Texas and the points. I think they cover. Now, Ewers has been out with the shoulder sprain. He's missed the last 2 games. They just recently said that he will play in this TCU game. If he plays, is he 100%? Is he able to have full range of motion, throw? I don't know if they would really start him against TCU if they didn't feel confident that he was 100%, but I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not seeing the practice. And if he does kind of keep that injury, like if it's still bothering him, can Murphy keep the momentum for Texas rolling? Another way, I think Texas wins. I think they win big, whether it's with Murphy or Quinn Ewers. I hope he's healthy because I think he's a hell of a quarterback, and I hate seeing him injured. I hate seeing any player injured, but he's a really good quarterback, and I hope that he is able to take Texas a very far way this year. Moving right along, we just got a couple more. Florida on the road at LSU. Florida is 5-4. LSU is 6-3. LSU is a 14.5-point favorite. Florida's straight trash. I've already said early in this video, I don't think they'll win another game. They've got LSU. They've got LSU this weekend. Then next weekend they play Mizzou, and then they play Florida State. That is 3 straight L's. Florida will finish with a losing season for 3 years in a row at 5-7, and next year does not get a whole lot better. How do you lose to Arkansas? That was Arkansas's first road SEC win. And was it their first SEC win this season? But their first road SEC win? How do you do that, Florida? Holy shit, you're horrible. Billy Napier has no idea what he's doing when it comes to coaching. He may be able to recruit fine, but he does not know what he's doing when it comes to coaching. When are you going to figure this out? Also, you give him a couple more years, so you're not just firing him a coach after every 2 to 3 years. But when are you going to learn this lesson, Florida, man? Like, he's not it. You better hope that Florida's next coaching hire is the right one, because it's bad. We all know Jaden Daniels went down with concussion protocol last week against Bama. Dallas Turner was the guy that delivered the hit. I'm not going to get into if it was targeting or not. It was roughing the passer or late hit on him, but I'm not going to get into the whole targeting situation. They're playing football. I feel bad for Daniels. Never want to see a player injured, especially that when he sat up, he looked dizzy. News has come out that he's still day-to-day. They said that if he's good to go, come game day, he'll play. If he's not, then he won't. Hope he's 100% healthy, but you got to take that thing serious. Concussions are a serious thing. Hope he is. Hope he can get back on the field. If he's back on the field, this is game over for Florida. I think Florida will be able to put up a little bit of points because LSU's defense is straight trash. But I don't think Florida and Graham Cracker Mertz will be able to keep up on any pace with LSU. I think this has the potential of being like a 50-35 type game. But I think LSU wins. Last get into is USC on the road at Oregon. Oregon 8-1. USC is 7-3. Oregon is a 15-point favorite. This is a 10:30 p.m. game. 10:30 at night. I live in Florida, so Eastern. This is a 10:30. Why? Holy shit, I'm going to be tired. USC has fallen. No matter how good Caleb Williams is or what Caleb Williams does, they are always finding ways to lose because that defense is trash. Bo Nix and Oregon are finding rhythm when it matters later in the year. They took that loss against Washington. I think if you put those two teams on the field together, I think Oregon gets the win the second go around. USC is constantly giving up 35 points a game. I went and did the math. They are averaging 35 points given up on defense per game. That is an insane amount. I don't understand how they only have 3 losses. The only reason why they have 7 wins is because of Caleb Williams. Such a waste to waste that talent on that team, and it's all because of Lincoln Riley. He is not a good coach. He did the same thing at Oklahoma. And he's doing it now at USC. Bo Nix has a 78 completion percentage, 2,723 yards. He's got 25 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's only got 2 interceptions with 25 touchdown passes. Bo Nix is going to light this USC defense up. I think that Caleb Williams will have a good game, but they are not going to be able to keep up. I think Oregon wins, and I think they win big. 15 is a lot. I don't know if I'll take that, but I think Lincoln Riley goes to the league after a couple years. I think after Caleb Williams is gone, it would not surprise me if Lincoln Riley finds his way to exit into the league. I just don't think he's a good coach, and he can't make a good defensive hire. If he had a good defensive coordinator, maybe, but I don't think it really revolves around the defensive coordinator. I think it revolves around Lincoln Riley and his philosophy and his mindset when it comes to football, and I just don't think he will ever have what it takes to get to what he needs to get to play for the big game. And like I said, Bo Nix and this Oregon offense is finding rhythm when it matters later in the season, and they are looking dynamic. So give me Oregon. But that is it for my Week 11 preview and predictions. Can't wait to watch these games this weekend. Other than that, over and out.